Basic English with Embassy Camps. And yes, my name is David, and I'm back with you for lesson number 7. So normally I don't do grammar-based lessons, but today is by special request. So let's give it a try. Okay. So what we're going to focus on today is the passive voice. Okay. So the passive voice. So in English, we have the two voices. We have the active voice, and then we have the passive voice. On your screen, you should be able to see some examples of the passive voice and the form of these sentences. Okay. For example, number 1, it asks us, name 3 books that were made into films. Okay, so 3 books that were made into films. Okay, so I'll give you some time to think about that. So, and maybe let's talk about some different books. Okay, what about Harry Potter? Okay, so Harry Potter is the famous children's book series from J.K. Rowling, and those books were made into films. Okay, my favorite is probably Lord of the Rings. So I loved reading Lord of the Rings when I was a little kid, and yeah, it was great to see that those books were also made into films. So, let's think of another example. Some famous books that were made into films. Maybe for the adult students out there. I don't know if you know The English Patient, but that was a wonderful book written by a Canadian writer, Michael Ondaatje, and that book was also made into a film, The English Patient, and it was an Oscar-winning film. So quite a few years back. So if you have a chance to check it out, check out The English Patient. And I just thought of another book that is really a great film and a great book as well, The Life of Pi, also written by a Canadian writer. That Hello? Are we still online? Okay. Why is it asking me to leave the class? Okay, that's strange. Sorry about that. We had a bit of a malfunction. Okay, so I'm going to try and get back in there. Okay. So anyway, I was mentioning The Life of Pi, which was also a famous novel that was also made into a film. Okay, so let's move on to another topic that's also presented using the passive voice. And the next example is name 3 things that are used by artists. Okay, 3 things that are used by artists. For example, a canvas is used by an artist. Paint brushes are used by artists. And what else? What else would be used by an artist other than a canvas and paint? So I suppose maybe some pencils. Pencils could also be used by artists. And okay, what about, let's name number 5. Let's name 3 sports that are played in teams. So do you like to play team sports or do you like to play individual sports? So 3 sports that are played in teams. Basketball. Basketball is played in a team. How many players in a basketball team? 5 players. Okay, so basketball is played in a team. Other team sports include ice hockey. Ice hockey is played in a team, and also let's do volleyball. Okay, volleyball is also played in a team. Okay, and we'll do one more example, and then we'll get into our second activity. And let's do number 9. Name 3 languages that are spoken in Europe. Okay, so English is spoken in Europe. German is another language. German is spoken in Europe as well as French. Okay, French is spoken in Europe. Okay. So that's a kind of warm-up activity to give you some different ways that the passive voice is used. Okay. Now let's move on to our next activity, and I think you'll be able to see the form of the sentences even more clearly. Okay. All right. Now, in the first slide, we're talking about the object. We're talking about English. All right. We're not mentioning about who, in this case, who the speakers are. We're just mentioning the object. We're mentioning the language. So English by 3.5 billion people all over the world. So we have a choice here. We can say English speak by 3.5 billion people. That's the present simple tense. We would use that in the case of an active sentence, speak, but this is not active, this is passive. So we also have the past form spoke. English spoke by 3.5 billion people. And we also have English is spoken. And then we also have English am spoken. Okay, so in the group, which one is correct? Is it speak, spoke, is spoken, or am spoken? Okay. I hope that all of you decided that is spoken is correct. Okay. English is spoken by 3.5 billion people all over the world. Okay. Now let's look at the form of that sentence. We have the object English, and then we have the verb to be. In the passive voice, we always use the verb to be, whether it's is, am, or are, depending on the subject or the object in this case. And then we have the verb in the past participle form, okay? When I say past participle, I mean the verb as in speak, spoke, spoken. Okay, we always use the past participle, spoken in this case, okay? So the object, verb to be, is the remaining part of the sentence by 3.5 billion people all over the world. So you will see in all of these sentences, you will see the same form. Object, verb to be, plus the past participle verb form, okay? Let's go to number 2. Okay. Okay, so number 2, we have 2 famous people, okay? Although I understand that Mona Lisa was a real woman, but that wasn't her real name, from what I understand. And then we have the famous painter, Leonardo da Vinci. In this case, we're going to focus on the action. The action of painting Mona Lisa is considered to be more important, even more important than the person, which is Leonardo da Vinci. Mona Lisa is obviously very famous as well. So we'll talk about Mona Lisa first. And because Mona Lisa was painted in the past, we want to use the past passive form. So here we're going to use Mona Lisa was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. Okay. So once again, you can see we've got the object, the painting. The name of the painting is Mona Lisa. And then we have the verb to be, this time in the past, was, and then the past participle painted. Okay. And the person who actually did the action by Leonardo da Vinci. Now, in most cases, when we use the passive voice, the focus is on the action. The focus is more on the object. Usually the subject, the person doing it, is not important. Okay. But in this case, we could also say Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa, because obviously Leonardo da Vinci is also a very famous person. So we might also use the active in that case, the active form or the active voice. Okay. So Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa, or the passive form, the Mona Lisa was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, so number 3, more and more trees down every day. So in this case, we're talking about a trend. We're talking about something that is continuing to happen even now. So we're going to use the continuous forms. More and more trees are cutting, is cutting, are being cut, or is being cut. This one's not very easy. This one's a bit tricky, actually. So what do you think? Which one is correct? What do you think? Is it is being cut? No, we can't use is because trees is plural. Is we use with the singular, okay? So we can't use that. And we can't use are cutting because remember, in the passive form, we always have to have the verb to be. So in this case, it's verb to be being. More and more trees are being cut down every day. Okay, so this shows a trend. This shows that the action of cutting down the trees is continuing to happen. Okay? More and more trees are being cut down every day. All right. Now, in this case, because it's 2025, actually it's 2025 now, I know, but in this case, we're talking about the future in 2025, maybe later in the year. The Thessaloniki Metro in 2025 in the future, okay? Because this is going to happen in the future or will happen in the future, we need to use will, okay? So now we have a choice, will complete or will be completed. So the correct choice, of course, needs to be will be, because as I mentioned before, we need to use the verb to be form when we use the passive. So will, verb to be, plus the past participle completed. The Thessaloniki Metro will be completed in 2025. Okay? So you'll notice that the passive voice also has all 12 different verb tenses included, including present simple, the future tenses, the past tenses, the present perfect tenses, all the tenses can be used. Okay? All right, in this case, oh no, the famous painting, okay? Here is the present perfect passive, okay? The famous painting has been stolen, okay? Has been stolen, okay? Let's go back and have a look at that, okay? So in this case, obviously the focus is on the action because we don't know the person. So we don't know who is stealing the painting. And maybe that person is not so important anyway. It's just what he's doing that's important. So the famous painting has been stolen. Using the present perfect makes this event seem more recent and more important, okay? So this is how we often use the present perfect. It means we don't know exactly when the painting was stolen, but we know that it has been stolen recently. Okay. So how are we doing for time? Okay, maybe we'll do one or two more examples. Okay. In this case, the Eiffel Tower. So who built the Eiffel Tower? Okay. Maybe quite a famous person, actually. So Gustav Eiffel, I believe, was the person who built the Eiffel Tower. But in this case, we're not focusing on him so much. We're focusing more on what he has built. Okay, so in this case, the Eiffel Tower is more important. So the Eiffel Tower in 1889 is certainly in the past. So if it's in the past, we need to use the verb to be in the past form. So we have a choice between was built or were built. The Eiffel Tower is just one tower, it's singular. So we should say the Eiffel Tower was built in 1889. Okay. Okay, this is something that I mentioned earlier. The novel, okay, that was also made into a film. So the novel in this case is Harry Potter. And Harry Potter is not the person who wrote the film, or wrote the book rather, J.K. Rowling. Okay. So Harry Potter, we're going to mention him first, the name of the book. and it's in the past. This book was written in the past. It's one book, so because it's only one book, do we say was written or do we say were written? Okay. Harry Potter was written by J.K. Rowling. Okay. But if we mention all the books, if we mention the series of books, in that case, we could also say the series of Harry Potter books were written by J.K. Rowling. Okay. But in this case, it's just the one book. So we'll say was written. Okay. So I'm hoping that you're getting a better understanding about how we use the passive. Okay. Remember, in the case of the passive, the action is more important than the person, more important than the subject. Okay. Now, Thomas Edison, he's also a very famous person. He's a very famous subject. But in this case, we're not going to focus so much on Thomas Edison. The focus will be more on his invention, which was the light bulb. Okay. So the light bulb in the past was invented by Thomas Edison. Okay. All right, let's do one more because this one is an example of the present passive form because we're stating a fact. This pencil in Germany. Okay. So this pencil makes in Germany, this pencil made in Germany. This pencil is made in Germany, or this pencil are made in Germany. Which one is correct? Okay. So we're stating a fact. We're saying the pencil, it's one pencil. We need to use verb to be, remember, okay? So this pencil is made in Germany. Okay. All right. Oh, I think maybe we have some Titanic fans out there. This will definitely be the last one. Okay. Okay. Everyone knows the film Titanic, I believe. Okay. So this film was made in the past. So we're going to have to use the past form of the verb to be. So we only have one choice, really. Is in the present. Was is in the past. Will is in the future. And then be is also something from the present. So Titanic is an older film, maybe 30, 40 years ago. So Titanic was directed by James Cameron. Okay. In this case, we're not focusing on James Cameron, the director. We're focusing on the film. The film was directed by James Cameron. Okay. So where am I going to take you now? Okay. Let's go to another activity, but it's not going to be this one. Just one moment. Okay. All right. Another way that we often use the passive voice is to describe a process. Okay. So in this case, the question is, how is pizza made? Okay. So we're going to describe the process. Now, because we're describing the process, we're not going to focus so much on the person who makes the pizza, but we'll focus more on the action, okay, about how the pizza is made. How is the pizza made? Okay. So would you like to know? Would you like to find out the ingredients and the steps of how the pizza is made? So let's have a look here.
Welcome back to Ever Wonder. Today we're going to a pizza shop.
All right. Now, let's just make sure that the video is working here. Okay. Okay, that should be fine. Okay. Now, the first step in making the pizza is you look at the picture and you can see the cheese. What kind of cheese is this? This is grated cheese. Okay, so we start with the cheese first. Okay, and that's the correct answer. Okay.
Mark and Sue are going to show us how they make their pizza. Steph is mixing the ingredients for the dough. This includes water.
Okay. Now, we can see in this picture, the question is, what is he pouring? Okay, so he is pouring water is correct. Okay. Now, but the question we have to think about here is the subject, he. Who is he? Is he really important? In this case, we want to know how pizza is made. So instead of using the active voice, he is pouring water, maybe we want to change this to make it passive. Okay, so my question for you is how? How would you change this sentence to make it passive? Instead of saying he is pouring water, how can we express it using the passive voice? Okay, so the correct form would be the water. So we're focusing on the object in this case. Water is being, because it's happening right now, water is being poured into the, I suppose you could say, the container. Okay, so the water is being poured. Okay, so that's the first step in the process of making
Water,
pizza.
flour, yeast, sugar, salt, and oil. It's all put together in a large mixer.
Okay, so in this case, the question is, what is the machine doing? And the answer is, it is mixing the pizza dough. Okay. But once again, okay, so it is mixing the pizza dough. Is the machine really what we should be focusing on, or is the action of the mixing more important? So again, we want to change this into the passive form. It is mixing the pizza dough is active. In the passive voice, we would talk about the pizza dough first. So the pizza dough is being mixed. Okay, so that's the next step in the process of making the pizza. Once again, the pizza dough is being mixed.
The tomato sauce is mixed. They combine canned tomatoes and their own special spices for flavor.
Okay, and in this at this point, you can see what are they making. Okay, are they making the pizza sauce? Are they making the pizza dough, or are they making the cheese sauce? And the best choice here would be they are making the pizza dough. But once again, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I clicked on the wrong one. They're making pizza sauce. Okay. So let's see if we can, I don't think we can go back. Okay. So they're making pizza sauce. Now, who are they? Are they important? Probably not. So let's change that. Let's change it to the passive voice. They are making pizza sauce. We'll need to change that to the pizza sauce is being made. Okay. The pizza sauce, verb to be, is, because it's being made right now, is being made.
So we're trying to cut and weigh the dough.
Okay. All right. When we're making the pizza, the dough is very important. So now we need to make a sentence here. So we have the subject, he. Did he cut first? Yes, cut first. He cut and weighed the dough. Okay. All right. So this sentence is the active voice. It's a simple sentence. You starting with the subject he, and then using the present simple form of cut and weighed. Okay, he cut and weighed. Actually, this is in the past because he did this in the past. So he cut and weighed the dough. Okay. I suppose we could also say he cuts and weighs the dough. Okay. So can you change this one into the passive form? Because he, we don't know who he is. Okay. So we would need to start with which part of the sentence here? We would have to start with the dough. The dough is cut and weighed. Okay, So the dough is cut and weighed. The next step in the process of how to make pizza. Okay, so let's go on.
Yeah. Each one of these makes one large pizza.
Okay, so what is he spreading on top of the dough? All right. So he is spreading oil on top of it. Okay. He's spreading oil on top of the dough or on top of it. In this case, we'll say oil. Oil is being spread on top of it, on top of the dough. Okay. Okay. This one can be confusing because some people might think that the dough is actually the object, but it's not. We're talking about, in this case, we're talking about the oil. The oil is being spread on top of the dough.
Dough is put away to rise for a few hours before it's ready to cook. Meanwhile, Mark sets up mozzarella cheese for the pizzas.
Okay, so now we're going to focus on the toppings, what we're going to put on our pizza, and the cheese that we're going to use is mozzarella. Okay, mozzarella cheese. And again, we have the active form of the sentence. So we'll start with the subject. He cuts mozzarella cheese for the pizzas. Okay. He cuts mozzarella cheese for the pizzas. Once again, let's change this to the passive form. Okay. Are we going to start the sentence with pizza, or are we going to start the sentence with mozzarella cheese? Well, we need to look at the action cut. What is being cut? Is the mozzarella cheese being cut, or is the pizza being cut? Okay, the answer would be mozzarella cheese. So let's start our sentence with mozzarella cheese. That mozzarella cheese is being cut for the pizza. Okay, or mozzarella cheese is cut for the pizza. Okay.
This piece of machinery attaches to the mixer and shreds the cheese up into fine pieces.
Okay, so what does this machine do? Okay, or what is being done? Or what is done with this machine? Okay, so what does this machine do? It shreds the cheese. Okay, it shreds the cheese, or of course, we can also say the cheese is shred. The cheese is shred by the machine, or the cheese is being, perhaps, the cheese is being shred by the machine.
Now that the dough has cooked, we're ready to make the pizza.
Excuse me.
Mark rolls the dough flat and stretches it out.
Okay. So in this picture, I guess the name of the chef is Mark. So the question is, what is Mark doing? Okay. So looking at the picture, he's rolling and stretching the pizza dough. He's shredding the pizza dough, or he's mixing the pizza dough. Okay. I think in this case, he's doing more than just mixing it. So he's rolling and stretching the pizza dough. Okay. So again, passive voice, the pizza dough is being rolled and stretched. Okay. The pizza dough is being rolled and stretched.
Next, he spreads the sauce out onto the dough.
Okay. And here we can see the sauce. He spreads the sauce onto the dough. Okay. So he spreads the sauce onto the dough. Okay. So if we use this in the passive form, we need to look at the sentence and decide, are we going to start with the sauce, or are we going to start the sentence with the dough? Okay, so we need to look at the action. The action is spread. So in this case, what is being spread? Is it the sauce that's being spread, or is it the dough? So I'll give you a moment to think about that. Is it the sauce or the dough that is being spread? Okay, and I think you'd all agree that it should be the sauce. The sauce, in this case, the sauce is spread onto the dough. Okay, the sauce, verb to be, is spread onto the dough. Okay, so we need to use the verb to be is because sauce is uncountable. It's not count. We don't count sauce. So it is being spread or it is spread.
And then he sprinkles on the cheese. Here, Marcus, me.
Okay. So don't forget we have the mozzarella cheese. So he sprinkles the cheese on top. Okay. We've got another on here. He sprinkles on, I guess we can put the on there. Okay, we may have to change some things here. Okay. So he sprinkles on the cheese. He sprinkles cheese on the top. He sprinkles on the cheese on top. Okay, it's a bit strange. Okay. Okay, he sprinkles on the cheese on top. This one's crazy, this one. Okay, he sprinkles on the cheese on top. I think we could just use one on would be enough. Okay, so he sprinkles on the cheese on top, or he sprinkles the cheese on top. Okay, in this case, we have two ons. All right. So once again, he, not really sure who he is. So let's focus on the cheese. What is being done or what is done with the cheese? The cheese is sprinkled on top. The cheese is sprinkled on top of the pizza.
Here, Marcus making a pepperoni pizza. There are many toppings that go on pizzas. It goes into the oven to cook, and then comes out and gets ready for delivery.
Okay. So what about your favorite pizza? What pizza toppings do you like? So generally on pizzas, we would often have the pepperoni, okay? So you can see the pepperoni is on this pizza. And the next part here is they. We start the sentence with they. Okay, they cook the pizza in oven. Small mistake here. Okay, can you see the mistake? This is O, the vowel O. So this should be an. They cook the pizza in an oven. Okay. So that's the active voice. Once again, I'm not really sure who they are. So we'll focus on the pizza and we'll say the pizza is cooked in the oven. Okay, the pizza is cooked in the oven. We don't make any mention of who cooks the pizza. If you want to, you could say the pizza is cooked in the oven by them. Okay, by them. We would have to change this to the object form, okay? The object pronoun. Uh-oh, they cook a pizza in the oven. They cook the pizza in it. Oh, they cook a pizza in the oven. Okay, got it. Okay. Small error, small mistake with using the different articles here. Okay. Okay. So we're almost finished with the pizza. I think for you guys, it's around dinner time. It's like 5 or 6 o'clock. So maybe you were thinking about what am I going to have for dinner tonight? So maybe pizza. Pizza could be a nice option, right? So what did he do here? The choices are he mixed the pizza into slices, he cut the pizza into slices, or he stretched the pizza into slices. Okay, probably the correct choice would be he cut, right? So he cut the pizza into slices, or the pizza, okay, the pizza is cut, okay, or the pizza was cut, maybe. It's already cut, I see. It's in the past now. So the pizza was cut into slices. Okay. And then finally, okay, he closed the box. Okay. So he closed the box and the box was closed. Okay. Okay, so there you have it. Okay. So just let me make sure that we turn that off. Okay, so we're not going to hear any sound from there anymore. Okay, so there you have it. So the different steps on how we make the pizza or how pizza is made. Okay, I hope that you have a better understanding about how we use the passive voice in English. So we use it in cases where the action is more important than the subject. The people doing the action maybe is not really what's important. That's really not what we should focus on. Okay. And yeah, maybe we'll do a quick review of the passive voice next week when we have another lesson. But the next thing I need to share with you now is some details about my sponsor, the sponsor of this program. Okay. So just give me one moment and I'll share the details here. Okay. So I'm an English teacher or instructor with Embassy English. So Embassy English is involved in all kinds of different activities involving the English language, including embassy camps. And the embassy camps are held different times throughout the year and different locations. Let me think about the different locations. Malaysia, Singapore. I understand they're in Indonesia now as well, and also, of course, in Dubai. So if you want to get more information about the Embassy English camps, you can contact them at this telephone number, or you can use the QR code, or you can contact them at embassy, or rather education@embassyalliance.com or at www.embassy.camp. Okay, so I'm looking forward to joining more of these camps this year, and I hope to see some of you there as well. So thank you for joining me here for lesson number 7, and I hope you have a better understanding about how we use the passive voice. And that's it for today, and I'll see you again next week. Bye for now. Have yourself a great night, guys. Bye-bye.